So an interesting thing you want to point out. You're saying Google is threatening God. Okay, and what you mean, the people of God, right? And what you're basically saying is that not just Google, generally social media, which is owned by certain companies, they're going to limit whose voice is heard. And my argument against that is that God is way too smart for the owners of Google and YouTube, and we can circumvent that. But God also has expectations of us, and if we don't meet those expectations, we deserve to be ruled, and we are no longer really people of God. So what is the way? This is the way, right? Okay, now at some point they'll try to stop this as well, right? Okay, but God can find all sorts of ways, and I don't think God is limited to that. But I think you're making a very important. I'm not rubbishing your point, because most people, especially who are godless, they feel hopeless, and they feel like, oh no, YouTube is controlled, and Rumble might get controlled later on, and whatever, all this kind of stuff, and they feel so helpless. But as a Muslim, God has prophesied that, for example, one of the prophecies is that the sun will rise from the west, and that's a metaphorical meaning that Islam will rise from the west. Like, it's gonna happen. All you have to do is play your part, and God will do the rest. You have to be godly. Yeah, I'm not scared of anything. I don't think any people can fight God's will.
I agree. I think God is a master strategist, and he will out-strategize any evil force, any demonic force. God will always win, but he acts through us. It's on the men of God, the men and women of God, to rise up against these evil tyrannical forces that are at play right now. You know, we all know it. Look what they did to Andrew Tate. Okay, this has been going on, and it's only getting worse, right? I've had censorship from Google. I created a game to try and inspire my fellow Lebanese brothers and sisters to stop supporting these evil politicians that don't care about them and rob them, and just support their country. I created a game that inspires that, and guess what? It got banned because it was political, whatever. It wasn't political. It was anti-political. It was saying, don't be political. Support your nation, not your politicians. They didn't like that because Google is controlled by the deep state. They want to be your God. And there's a threat. If we don't rise up against these evil forces right now and support brothers like Andrew Tate, then they will start banning your preachers. They will ban the priests. They will ban the rabbis. They will ban the imams. They will ban them all. Because if you don't believe their bullshit liberal agenda...
They're swearing on my channel.
I'm sorry, I apologize. If you don't believe in their vision...
You can say BS. Vision, whatever.
Their BS vision of how we should live, or what we should say, or if we can swear or not, then they'll get rid of you. They'll ban you. That's why with your acceptance, I'm gonna rip these videos out of YouTube and put them on Rumble and GodTube and hopefully wherever else, because I see a day where YouTube will not allow this speech and get rid of it.
Yeah, sure. So now you've spread it wider. There was a technical tyranny, you know, Google, YouTube, whatever. They limit what we can say, but there's you could say more physical tyranny where our leaders don't let us be, and they're trying to also implant all sorts of ideas like, you know, trans ideas and anti-family ideas, right? Okay, but they don't affect Muslims. You know why? Because Muslims meet in the mosque and they communicate directly, right? And so the only reason why the rest of society is affected is because they have become godless and they stopped going to the churches and the mosques and the synagogues, whatever, right? Because even Jews are becoming like, they don't follow the religion anymore. They've got their own version. I forgot what it's called. There's like this very popular form of Judaism, which is like, don't follow Judaism directly, just be part of the club sort of thing, right? And they're lovely people. One of my great Jewish neighbours, he just gave me a beautiful Eid card. I'm not hating on them. I'm just saying. And I went to a synagogue, and it was one of those I always forget the words, right? But it's kind of like, don't follow Judaism strictly, let's say. All these people, this watering down of religion, okay, means there is no religion left if you water it down. Islam, luckily, is not suffering from that. I would say Christianity is suffering from that, right? And so those people who don't follow God's word deserve, in a way, to suffer. It's a natural outcome, right? They deserve to suffer because when you don't follow religion properly, then you have no community left. Like the numbers of people attending church are going down, okay, because they're not listening to God's word, right? And when you don't have any community, because that's what church is, community, direct community, right? Then you have to depend on these apps, and you even have to depend on apps like Tinder for relationships. Everything goes downhill when you leave God.
I agree. We need God. We need to defend the principles handed down to us by the prophets about God. We need to defend that. We have to take a stand. Here's an example. Do you believe in democracy?
No, I believe in consultancy. So it's a different thing. So I don't believe in every uneducated person deciding what this country is going to do.
I agree with you there. I agree. I do. And even look back at the prophet. If you think about it, what is a prophet? It's a one human individual that we've all decided to follow their teachings. One person. It wasn't a group of people. It was one person. Jesus as well. One teacher. It wasn't Jesus and someone else. It was Jesus. It was Muhammad. It was Abraham. It was one individual. So even from a religious perspective, I don't know where democracy has come from. It's nothing to do with God or religion.
So in Islam, the Prophet is told to consult, right? Because he's a human being, right? But he's also a prophet of God, right? So he has some core tenets. This is what I have to stick by, okay? And even in the Quran it says don't follow the majority, otherwise they will lead you away from God. That's a literal verse of the Quran, right? But what I mean by consultancy is called shura. I think that's, that word in Arabic, right? Shura means to consult.
I've heard it, but I didn't know it meant consultancy. But now I do.
Yeah. So it's like listen to people, take advice, but don't be ruled by that advice. Maybe it's like you with a company, they get consultants, so hire in consultants. But if it's a rubbish consultant, you don't listen to the rubbish consultant. So that's what I mean by that. Democracy can be really dangerous. And actually, when I say can be, is because you can see the mess we're in right now, that politicians do all these short-term things like Brexit. It's like, oh yeah, well, let's hate on all the brown people, even though brown people like me are running your schools and your hospitals and stuff like that.
And they don't even come from Europe.
Yeah. Right. So politicians manipulate people through democracy. So those are my thoughts on that.
So I agree. I think I don't believe in democracy either. But then that being said, do you believe in paying your taxes to an evil state that goes around bombing family values and Islamic nations like the UK and the US does?
So I understand your point. It's terrible what we're doing with our money, but they're also doing it even without money. There's printing random bits of money, and it's like, yeah, here's $1 trillion. Where's it coming from? And $1 trillion is being spent on wars. Where are they getting? I'm not sure. I'm not paying you £1 trillion. I'm not sure where they're getting it from. But the thing is, in Islam, you have to follow the leaders of the country, right? Otherwise, you have even worse destruction. Like if you have anarchy, then the whole country will die. Like each country is dependent on very delicate supply chains, for example, very delicate systems of organization. As soon as you don't have that, we can't sit down here, because we will have to go to the field and start growing all our food ourselves. Okay, we'll become dependent on everything. We can't have intelligent conversation with them because we will be hand to mouth all the time. People don't realize that. So what is the best way is a grassroots revolution. That's what Islam is doing right now, by the way. The fastest growing religion in the world is Islam, and it's bringing values. And when you have good values, you have good leaders, because bad leaders are like you can sort a disease that are a symptom of no community, right? If you have a community, for example, real community where there's strong values and they understand each other, they can pick leaders and say, we're going to use democracy to get that leader. But right now, we don't have that. We don't have communities. So when we're bad, we have bad leaders. And that's the teaching in Islam. So that we deserve the leaders we get.
But should you not defend yourself? If your leader is doing something evil, if your leader is Hitler, should you then do what he tells you and go and start killing every innocent Jew, gypsy, disabled person?
That's a really good point. So Islam has a hierarchy of who you have to listen to. So it says God, Muhammad, and the leaders who are put on top of you. So that's in the Quran. Okay. So if the leaders say something categorically against the teachings of Islam, then you listen to God first, right? But right now you don't really have that. Like you says, pay your taxes, you pay your taxes, right? Okay. Yeah.
Well, what if your taxes are being used to destroy the people of God?
Then you move country.
Okay.
As best as you can.
That's what I plan to do.
Yeah, a lot of people will do. So people don't realise that they see themselves as only victims, but this is happening a lot. And people moving countries. Like, if a country has bad policies, this happens in all other countries, why not England as well, right? So people have been coming to England in the past from countries which had bad policies. There's a lot of corruption in Lebanon, for example, right? Okay. And they would go away from, and they would come to England because actually England supported an NHS in the past, right? And they had certain good values, right? But now they're losing all the values. They're trying to privatize the NHS. They're not saying it, but yeah, everybody can see that's happening, right? They're trying to destroy the NHS. Then people will leave it, and it's kind of like a natural sort of, people vote with their feet, literally, and they'll move they walk away to Jordan or Lebanon, whatever, or whichever works best.
I mean, on the topic of Lebanon, so just a brief thing of what happened to Lebanon, right? I'll tell you exactly what happened to Lebanon. Lebanon has corrupt leaders that are just enriching themselves in their communities at the expense of the nation, okay? And the US knows this. The world knows this, and they let them do that. They let them get the country, the people, more in debt. They wanted them to do that, even because the more in debt the people get, the more broke they get, the more dependent they are on that money, and eventually the collapse will happen. And when that happens, they will then be able to reset the rules in that nation on how they see fit, in the democratic values that they want to have in that country. It's about command and control. So America is just as guilty of the mess in Lebanon as the leadership is, because they were like the drug dealer, okay, giving those drugs to that nation. America was the drug dealer. They were letting the people get in debt. They were providing that sickness, which is debt. Debt is a sickness.
But you know who I really blame? The Lebanese, okay?
No,
because this is the same argument I gave, that the reason why we have bad politicians is because we have bad people. We have corrupt politicians because we have corrupt people. Corrupt politicians take advantage of the corruption in the people. Do you agree? Let me ask you one question, and then you can say whatever, right? Why don't, if the Lebanese people are so good,
I'm not saying this so.
Okay, well, then you agree with me, because if they were any good,
they're just as good as bad as any other people.
Well, that's at the moment that's a really low bar, right? Because there's so much corruption in the world.
Hold on, let me.
Okay, I'm gonna make an argument, and you tell me your counter argument. If people are good enough, and you can have a rubbish level of good, but the kind of level of good we need are they unite. And you have a true sense of community where you actually work together. Not, we're like community, we smile at each other. It's no good, right? You need the level of community where you can unite. You can pick a leader that you know is good from your community and vote for them. Why don't the Lebanese do that?
So, what you need to look at society based on their religious and family values. The majority, I've been to Lebanon. The majority of Lebanese households are religious and are based in family values. The great majority of them, unlike a lot of Western nations, okay, they're not individualistic like the West. Now, Lebanon is being corrupted. People are becoming more and more individualistic. Men don't want to marry anymore. Women don't, are looking for different values in men rather than just a religious man that can give them a good life. Things are changing because they're being corrupted by Western influence, right? However, you cannot blame the people for for teaming up. Their leadership manipulated them, and the drug dealer, being the United States, with the Federal Reserve, with their evil debt system, Trump gave the Middle East affairs.
But you didn't answer my question. You didn't answer my question.
Why
Why didn't you get together, you Lebanese people, and vote for a good person if you're a community? But actually,
I don't believe in democracy. The Lebanese people shouldn't even vote. They shouldn't vote. You shouldn't vote. Hold on. The Lebanese people shouldn't even vote. These politicians all belong to other powers. They all belong to America or Iran or Syria or France. They all have they're all in it to game. They're all part of the same bullshit game, BS game. Sorry. You shouldn't even vote. You shouldn't vote. I don't blame the people. There's no point of voting. You're just voting for a different devil. There is no point of voting.
This is a dangerous thing. This is what Russell Brand said at one point. He said, "Don't vote," right? And then all the fascist people got in charge.
It doesn't matter. The point is,
so it might sound like a contradiction. It might sound like a. So we got BNP, whatever, they got popular in the space when people stopped voting. They gave up on voting in this country, and also all around the world, people, even in Europe, people stopped bothering to vote, and only the extremists carried on voting, and then therefore their parties went into power. So just to correct, or not correct, like just to people to understand my point of view, even though I don't agree with democracy generally, or I should say there should be a far more limited number of people who should be allowed to vote, okay, as was in the past, as in the original Greek system, etc. Okay, this is what we have at the moment. This is a method by which we can get together and use at the moment, and then later on we can develop a better, more intelligent democracy, or less people.
Can I tell you something?
Whatever.
I think if the British people voted for the BNP, right? I actually think that would be a positive for the world, and let me explain why. Because the UK would crumble, okay? Because they will lose all their doctors, they will lose all their scientists, they will lose all the religiously inspired people. They will go back to their countries or to Dubai or to some other, better nation. The UK would crumble, and the rest of the world will benefit from these intelligent individuals and their skills and gifts and the assets being taken back. And the BNP even offered to pay people to go back to their nations. Happy days. I think that's better than these neocons, these conservatives that wage war on other nations and destroy them so they can extract their resources. They're both devils. They're both demons.
So I agree with your analysis that would work, but at the same time, I want to limit suffering for all people, and I don't want even the people, like, let's say a racist votes and says they don't want me in the country. No. If there's a racist that doesn't want me in the country, I don't want that racist to suffer from their stupid actions. But generally, I agree with your analysis.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I say, I don't agree with BNP. I think they're stupid. But my point is, they're all as evil as each other. Okay, it's just the difference is the Conservatives, the Labour Party, they're sheep in wolves' clothing. They're wolves in sheep clothing. The BNP is a wolf. They tell you we're a wolf. You can see that. Conservatives are wolves in sheep clothing. They're pretending they're the good guys. They're pretending they're all nice, but they're just as wolves. They just see you as something to be farmed and exploited, the same as the BNP does.
What were we talking about in the beginning of this video? I can't remember.
The tyrannical forces of Google and the dangers they are inflicting on us God-loving humans.
Cool. So here's my solution: Islam. All right, and why is Islam the solution? First of all, it's the most logical, easy to understand. Okay, it solves all, as Tate says, fixes everything.
Not
okay.
everything.
Well, I think it fixes everything, and also you can see, because it's the fastest growing religion, you can see nobody's messing with Islam. Like, what I mean by that is, you can see the revolution happening in real time. Okay, and not only is that happening through converts, but also through children, which is demonstrating two things. One, strong family values. That's why Muslims have the most children, right? Okay, and more than Christians, because I think Christianity has been watered down, unfortunately. Even in Jordan, I love my Christian friends there, right? I had the best Eid ever in a Christian household, right? But they're too much into money and not even where they even demonstrate their religion. They demonstrate being Christian by wearing less clothes. I've seen how they try to look Western. Do they do that in Lebanon as well, right?
Yeah, on that, clothing is important. I don't think there's anything wrong with bearing your skin out. There's nothing wrong with
So
it.
I see that is because there's mental health issues directly related to wearing less clothes, because you use your body to demonstrate who you are, which it shouldn't be. It should be the quality of your personality. Okay, this is actually known through social media studies that women who are dressed modestly, Christians and Muslims and Jews, whoever, right? Okay, they have less body image issues because they dress modestly, because that has a knock-on effect, right?
I agree. If the purpose of you bearing your skin is simply sexual, okay, there's something wrong with that, because your skin, that's wrong. However, like for example, I like to walk around bare topless, for example, because I want to free my chest. I want to be able to consume more vitamin D from the sun. Why should I have to hide my chest under clothing?
It's not about hiding.
This is important because in my country, in Lebanon, when I started walking around topless, everyone thought I was crazy. Why is that crazy? Why is that crazy?
You're going to get skin cancer.
No, that again. This is another fallacy. Brings up an important point.
Australia has the most skin cancer because they don't cover up properly.
Okay, so what?
I think I want to have less harm to people. So anyway, the revolution, the revolution is like. Let me just finish my thing because I kind of half said it, right? The revolution is going to happen. Islam is the revolution. All the statistics are going to show that, right? It's growing the fastest. It's demonstrating the strongest values, and it's all happening. We don't have to worry about the elites. They're not more powerful than us. God has got a plan, like you said, is the master strategist. Good words, and we're all good. Just keep going with the plan.
No, I agree with that. But again, like I say, God acts through people. Okay, God acts through people. And then when that failed, God will release nature on us. We've seen that with the teaching of Noah, right? Now, did God actually flood the world? No. I think God knew a flood was coming because He knows everything. So He knew there was going to be this major flood, and He chose to inspire and save Noah, and just decided not to save anyone else because that's His choice.
Okay, so I mean, I don't believe that the whole world is flooded. I think the region. Yeah, okay, cool. Because there are some
what was the biblical world at the time?
Yes, yeah, cool. We agree on a ton of stuff. Like most people don't even agree on that, so that's pretty awesome. Because there are sort of studies that there was a massive flood in that area, and blah blah blah. Anyway, good talking to you. I think we're done for this talk. Yeah? Awesome. Very interesting conversation as usual.